Hi, Shalom, friends. Thought I'll do something a little different than usual. Since it's almost Pesach, I thought it might be helpful to show you the two Piacezna Haggadahs that have been published. Um, and they're very different, and you should know what's out there if you want to get a Piacezna Haggadah for Pesach. So the first one I have came out in 2007, but I think it was previously published in perhaps 1984, based on an edition earlier in the 60s, which looks like this. I guess mine is a Feldheim, which is probably the newest edition, only I'm guessing. And so Haggadah Pesach essentially of Koznetz, which is, of course, what Piacezna is essentially a part of in a bigger sense. So it has in it the commentaries of the Maggid of Koznetz, who was the Piacezna's great-grandfather, and his son, Moshe Eliakim Brea. They also put in here the Haggadah of the Tiferet Shlomo of Radomsk. And just at the very end of it, they attached on, and I think this is probably only from the edition in the 1980s, I suspect. They just add on at the end a few of the really obvious things, but not all the obvious things that are related to Pesach from the Piaseczna Rebbe, which is first they have his extremely important and lengthy and detailed visualization exercise about Yetziat Mitzrayim as seen through the eyes of a child, which is in chapter 7 of Hachshar Avrechim. So they bring that. And then they bring the drashot from Eish Kodesh and then from Derech HaMelech that are for Shabbat Hagadol and Pesach, and that's it, basically. And they bring a little bit from Chovat HaTalmidim, from the 3 articles at the end, which is also related to preparing for Pesach, which is a very, very beautiful piece. So basically, it's really a Koznetz Haggadah, and at the back they stuck on most of the relevant, not all, but most of the relevant pieces where the Rebbe talks about Pesach and just attached at the end. So that's very kind of a standard thing. That's one thing. The second one, which is a very, very different type of Haggadah, which came out in 2002. I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. 2022. That does make sense. Tafshin Pei Bet is this Haggadah. Haggadat Piacezna. You can always see it has a totally different look, different feel to it. It's much bigger. It's more artistic. And this was put out by Amot Shapira, who is the Rebbe's brother's great-grandson. As the Rebbe's brother was Reb Shaya Shapira, the Amrei Chalutz, and after he died, his son Rabbi Elimelech became the Rebbe, and after he died, we have the current Rebbe, Rav Kalman Menachem, and this is Rav Kalman Menachem's nephew's work, and it's very, very beautiful. And this is a very, very different kind of thing. It's not only is it visually much more compelling and creative in terms of well, you can't really see it. I'm not going to make too much of an effort to do this properly, but it's a much more beautiful work. But it's, first of all, it's only Piacezna. It's not Koznetz or anything like that. It's just Piacezna itself. And what Amot Shapira did here is he really made an effort to not only bring in the obvious things about Pesach that are in the Rebbe's writings, like were appended at the back of the other Haggadah. I mean, he does that as well. But he also really went to some serious effort to take pieces from the Piacezna Rebbe's corpus, which are not directly related to Pesach, but yet could be related to themes that come up in the Haggadah of education, about eating, about the inner world, all sorts of things that can be made relevant, but they're not the obvious connection. So it's a very, very different kind of Haggadah. So it's very, very beautiful. It's also later as a Haggadah. What I have when I have the first edition is basically I have the Haggadah with other Perushim, and in the back of the book I have stuff that Piacezna wrote. but I can't really use it simultaneously too easily. Whereas this Haggadah, the newer one from 2022, is actually taken all the pieces from the Piacezna, the obvious and less obvious ones on the Haggadah, and attach them in the right place so you have a usable, ongoing Haggadah of Pesach. So for just one example, as I'm just flipping through, so in Dayenu, or before that, if Hashem had brought us to this and this and this, all these stages, for example, Ilu Natan Lanu et HaShabbat, if Hashem had given us the Shabbat, so then he brings here a section about the nature of Shabbat, which is from a Shabbos Tshuva drasha in Derech HaMelech. Okay, so there are all sorts of things like that. If he had brought us to Har Sinai, see a section from Eish Kodesh, from Parshat Yitro, about Matan Torah at Har Sinai. It's not something essentially about Pesach, but it's certainly about Matan Torah, which is mentioned in the Haggadah. And then he has a whole section here about Nigun, about music, because we Nomar Lefanav Shira Hadasha. It's about singing. So then he has a long section, beautiful section of things about music, again with some nice artwork as well. So that's all I wanted to share with you. I hope this is helpful. I assume they're both available, but I don't really know. So I think that Bezrat Hashem, as we go into Pesach, certainly the first one, this is very, very useful for preparing for Pesach, because you have pretty much all of the significant writings of the Rabbi on Pesach right there in the back of the book. So you don't have to go and look, where does he talk about in Derech HaMelech, where's the Eish Kodesh, etc. It's all been put together very, very nicely. So that is a very useful tool, especially for preparing for the Seder. So may this Seder come for us at a time of great salvation and open revelation and redemption of Hashem's salvation powers in the world. We should have good tidings and much healing on every level, and really feel a year of redemption beginning for all of Am Yisrael on the national level, and for all of us personally on the spiritual, emotional level, and for the whole cosmos. As Rav Kook famously wrote, Pesach Yitziat Mitzrayim is the springtime of the entire world. Call to